Hello and welcome to another session of the My Solo 401k Financial Daily Webinar Series. Thank you so much for joining. We're here today to discuss Schwab direct crypto trading, what it means for your self-directed solo 401k. If you have questions or topics you wish to discuss, please chat those over. And we'll go through those, whether on this topic or an off-topic issue. Please subscribe to our channels, whether you're on YouTube or LinkedIn or X or Instagram, as we do go live every day. And this is the office hours. Yes, it is. We like to bring content to share, but we also are happy to discuss questions or topics that you have. So please don't hesitate to chat those over. But let's dive into today's topic. First off, the presentation is being provided for educational purposes only and should not be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice, nor as a solicitation. When making an investment decision, please consult with your tax attorney and financial professional. All right, so we'll knock out a couple of these quick questions here. Thank you so much for bringing them. And then we'll go through the slides. And in the meantime, if any other questions pop up, don't hesitate to chat it over. So we've got checking in on your account. Thank you so much for signing up with us. Appreciate it. Just want to pull it up based on the email. Got it. So after we're done, we'll forward the latest emails that were sent to you. And we'll give you a substantive response. You're also welcome to book a call at mysolo401k.net/book. We'll follow up with you. Thank you so much for we generally don't like to talk about account specific questions. So we'll follow up with you right after this webinar is over though. But if you've got other questions, don't hesitate to chat those over as well. But let's dive into it. So we wanted to discuss the latest announcement from the Schwab CEO that was published in some news articles that they are going to be they're planning to introduce direct trading of Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's no specific time frame. We wanted to highlight that, and obviously as that is rolled out, we're monitoring that closely, and we'll circle back with more specific updates. But it's also a good opportunity to just discuss having direct crypto trading in your solo 401k, because that's one thing where a lot of folks that's the type of investment that a lot of our customers are making, is direct crypto trading. So we thought it'd be a good chance to just give an overview of the current state when it comes to investing in crypto, for example, via a Schwab brokerage account. In anticipation of the plans that Schwab has announced to allow direct crypto trading, and then also at least the current state today that others are doing direct crypto trading with their self-directed solo 401ks. So we'll discuss, of course, what is a solo 401k, just to lay the foundation, why crypto and retirement, just why some folks are investing in crypto. Obviously, we also want to just give the disclaimers like we did at the outset, but also just to highlight, just when it comes to crypto, of course, you've got volatility, regulation, and security considerations. So Schwab's crypto announcement. So Schwab's CEO stated that they plan to offer spot Bitcoin and Ether, and this would be direct crypto trading. Currently, they do allow Bitcoin and Ether, what they call ETPs, where they're essentially, you can think of it kind of like an exchange traded fund, where they're trying to track the price of the underlying cryptocurrencies. They also currently offer other products like ETFs that are designed to track the cryptocurrency industry generally. Then, of course, there's some publicly traded companies such as Coinbase, where that are also, of course, going to be a way to invest indirectly in the cryptocurrency industry and directly, of course, in that company. But again, direct crypto positions are not currently supported within Schwab accounts, but they have announced via their CEO plans to offer spot Bitcoin and Ether via direct trading. So that is the plans with Schwab. So just to kind of lay the foundation as well, we have a large number of customers who have their accounts at Schwab. So they have their plan through us, and then they have their brokerage account at Schwab. That's why it's so relevant to our community. So what can you currently invest in via a Schwab brokerage account when it comes to cryptocurrency investments? Well, they offer Bitcoin and Ether ETPs. So these would be similar to an exchange traded fund where it's trying to track the price of cryptocurrency. They offer crypto thematic ETFs. So this is an exchange traded fund that's invested in companies that are involved in cryptocurrency. Finally, you can invest directly in publicly traded stocks like Coinbase. Now, the structure for our customers is they have the plan through us. So we have an IRS approved 401k plan that we would establish for our customers' self-employed business, but then they would open up their accounts using those plan documents at the bank or brokerage of choice. So again, Schwab is one of the top brokerage options along with Fidelity. So Schwab offers, of course, their own basic solo 401k plan that's not going to allow for investing in cryptocurrency, but also opens up brokerage accounts that are governed by third-party plans. So the name of those brokerage accounts over at Schwab is referred to as a company retirement account. So this would be a brokerage account open for a third-party solo 401k plan. In other words, provided by us. Now, in terms of Schwab's fees, they don't charge any fees to open or maintain the account. There's free online trading. Now, there may be fees associated with the specific investment, like fund fees or expenses. Now, we also, of course, have our own fees, but it's totally flat fee, right? We charge an initial fee of $650, which includes the $525 establishment fee plus the first $125 annual fee. Then starting 12 months later, we charge our $125 annual fee, which covers the second year. Now, we do, as mentioned, have a number of customers that are already investing directly in cryptocurrency. First of all, our plan documents allow it. So how are they doing it? Well, they're not doing it through Schwab, right? Because Schwab, they've announced plans to allow direct crypto trading, but they're not currently allowing direct crypto trading. So these other customers are investing via cryptocurrency exchanges. It could be Coinbase, it could be Kraken, it could be Gemini, right? These are places where customers have opened up accounts. And the compliance requirements provide, so from a solo 401k perspective, what's important in terms of compliance is that these individuals have a separate account at the specific exchange that's opened under the name and EIN number of the solo 401k. So they're not, for example, investing via a personal account at the exchange. It needs to be opened under the name and EIN number of the plan. We obtain an EIN number for the plan as part of the establishment process. So as long as the specific exchange where the customer wants to open up the account and invest their solo 401k funds will open up an account under the name and EIN number of the solo 401k. It could be a trust account. It could be an entity account. The internal label is not so much important as the fact that it's opened up under the name and EIN number of the plan. And if they've got different types of funds, maybe pre-tax versus Roth, for example, or multiple participants, like a husband and wife that are both working in the same self-employed business, both participating in the solo 401k, as long as that exchange will support the multiple accounts setup with each account opened up under the name and EIN number of the plan, then that is what is important from a compliance perspective. Why do you need that EIN for the solo 401k? Well, the exchange will typically do tax reporting with respect to the activity in that account. So if there is tax reporting done, it needs to be done under the EIN number of the solo 401k so that the IRS understands that the income reported is growing inside the solo 401k on a tax deferred basis, potentially tax free if the individual is investing with Roth solo 401k funds, as opposed to a scenario where the person were to invest via an account that was opened up under their name and social security number. Well, now when the cryptocurrency exchange does tax reporting with respect to that account, they're going to do it under the social security number of the individual. So the IRS would expect for that income to be reported on the individual's tax return, which of course they won't do because they're investing their solo 401k funds on a tax deferred basis. So in sum, it's going to require a self-directed solo 401k trust setup. So you need to have a plan that allows for investing in cryptocurrency, such as the one that is offered by us, by my solo 401k Financial. You need to have a separate account, a bank account, to fund the account at the exchange, right? Because you're going to need to transfer fiat, US dollars, to that account at the exchange. And the cryptocurrency exchange's requirements are that the funding account, that the name on the funding account matches the name on the account at the exchange. So if the account is opened up under the name and EIN number of the solo 401k, the external funding account, the bank account, also needs to be opened up under the name and EIN number of the plan. And then, of course, you've got storage considerations. Some customers are just leaving their cryptocurrency on the exchange, or maybe using the cryptocurrency's cold storage options, whereas others are storing it on their own wallet. Now, it needs to be a dedicated wallet specifically for their solo 401k, stored in a safety deposit box associated with that bank account that would have also been opened up under the name of their solo 401k. What are the tax considerations? Well, according to the IRS, crypto is property, but gains are going to be tax deferred, potentially, again, tax free within the solo 401k, just like any other gains inside of your solo 401k, right? If you've got dividends, you've got a dividend paying stock inside your solo 401k, the individual is not going to report that dividend income on their personal tax return because it's a gain inside of the retirement account. It's tax deferred, potentially tax free. So that's the default position. Now, there are exceptions. So there are scenarios where investing in crypto may trigger what they call unrelated business income tax, UBIT, or if the individual is using margin to any type of margin investment, the default tax consequences that investment, the income attributable to that debt financed investment, would be subject to unrelated debt finance income tax payable by the retirement account. In other words, payable by the solo 401k. But even if it's not a margin investment, if the investment is ultimately generating business income, so it's like mining activities, that type of income may be considered business income. And if you have business income inside of a tax shelter, which is what a solo 401k is, then you have to consider whether that income is subject to UBIT, unrelated business income tax, which would be payable by the solo 401k. In that case, the solo 401k would have to file a UBIT tax return. But if it's just, say, buying and holding cryptocurrency, so it's investment income, that's going to be tax deferred, again, potentially tax free if it's inside of a Roth solo 401k. Risk and benefits, right? With any type of investment, there's volatility. Of course, many would state that inside, when it comes to crypto investments, there's increased volatility. Regulation risks, right? Well, that's something that's there's been a lot of activity on, right? For example, recently, the Genius Act was passed, and there's other legislation that's currently under consideration in Congress at the federal level, which could bring about more regulation, security risks, right? Of course, if you followed the industry for a while, like we have, there's been a number of security breaches at some of these exchanges, fraud, et cetera, et cetera. So as always, one needs to do their due diligence, work with their financial advisors, their tax and legal advisors, et cetera. In terms of the benefits, just diversification, growth, tax efficiency with any type of solo 401k investment, inflation hedge, right? These are the potential benefits that have been identified when it comes to investing in cryptocurrency. So in sum, Schwab, at the moment, does offer indirect cryptocurrency investments, right? Like we talked about with the ETPs, the EFTs, investing in publicly traded stocks in the cryptocurrency industry. They've confirmed their plans, though, to allow for direct crypto trading. As always, when it comes to the steps, one wants to evaluate, consult with their advisors, research, set up a plan that allows you to do it. Of course, keep good records. Ultimately, cryptocurrency offers potential, but requires diligence and risk management. So with that, let's go to some of the good questions. Thank you so much for bringing the questions. We appreciate all the great engagement. So on that book page, you can click. We've had a lot of folks that are booking, of course, thank goodness, and so that thank goodness, we can confirm that it works. If you click on that page, mysolo401k.net, then click the language where it says click here to book a call. That'll take you to this Calendly page where there's multiple options. So please check that out. Please try that again. Thank you so much. So what you want to do is when you go to the Calendly page, you'll see one option is for solo 401k. Let me shoot over a link to the actual Calendly page just to make it easy. But you'll see one of the options is solo 401k, and that's where you can book a one-on-one. Thanks for your patience with that. I'm going to get the direct link from Calendly here. There's the booking page. Let's copy the link. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. Creating a real estate portfolio. Can the 401k be a grantor beneficiary of a land trust for anonymous title owner? So it's more common in our experience that the solo 401k would just own real estate directly. It is possible to own the real estate via a LLC, provided that it's a single member LLC. As far as a land trust, ultimately the 401k needs to be the beneficial owner. You still have to satisfy all the real estate investments requirements. For example, it's got to be a passive investment. It cannot be used for personal use. The solo 401k owner is not going to be able to work on the property, et cetera, et cetera. But it would be acceptable to invest via a trust. Now, the individual is going to want to work with their local advisors that can advise them on those trust rules and ensure that the beneficial owner of the trust is the 401k, et cetera. You can grab some of the real estate procedure or some of the real estate rules. We have a guide here. Let's shoot that over. But I would say for those that are trying to achieve anonymity, what we see is more folks that are using an LLC to achieve that. You know, working with their local advisors to set that up. And ultimately, that's fine too. Let's grab the LLC procedure page. That's fine too, as long as it's a new LLC where the sole member of the LLC is the solo 401k. So ultimately, the ownership still flows up to the solo 401k. Here's that LLC procedure page. So if you took possession of funds via an indirect rollover, then that's exactly correct. You need to deposit those funds into a retirement account within 60 days, right? There's no exceptions. Now, if those funds were coming from an IRA and you've never done another indirect rollover, you haven't done an indirect rollover, one of these indirect rollovers within the past 12 months, then the individual could deposit those funds into an IRA, or they could deposit those funds into the solo 401k, regardless of whether they've done an indirect rollover, because those indirect rollover rules only apply. The once per 12-month requirement or rule only applies to an IRA to IRA transfer. There's no limit on transferring to a retirement plan like a solo 401k. Now, what some folks will still do, though, is if it's pre-tax money, they'll deposit it into an IRA within the 60 days to meet that 60-day requirement, assuming they haven't done an IRA to IRA indirect rollover within the past 12 months, so they still have one available to them, and then transfer from the IRA to the pre-tax solo 401k. Reason being is that then they'll get a receipt, essentially, because the IRA provider will have to issue a 5498 to confirm the deposit of those rollover funds. They'll also need to work with their tax advisor to report that as an indirect rollover, because the previous account provider, right, like say it was coming from another IRA, and the individual takes a taxable distribution and then deposits those funds into the IRA within 60 days. So in other words, an indirect rollover, the account provider from where the funds were first withdrawn still needs to report that to the IRS as a taxable distribution. So that's why the individual still needs to work with their tax advisor to report that as an indirect rollover on their tax return, so that the IRS understands that, no, it wasn't taken as a taxable distribution. It was rolled over within 60 days. Now, if those funds were Roth funds, you can't deposit to a Roth IRA, because then they'll get trapped, right? You can't transfer from a Roth IRA then to the solo 401k, because you can't transfer funds from a Roth IRA to any type of 401k, including a solo 401k. The other option would be to just transfer the funds directly to the solo 401k, and you'd still have to do that within 60 days. There's no, once per 12-year requirement that only applies to IRA indirect transfers. But you're still going to want to work with your tax advisor to report that, because again, in the absence of reporting it on the tax return, the IRS is going to understand that you took a taxable distribution, because the account from where you took the funds, the administrator of that account, is going to have to report that as a taxable transfer. Great questions. So we prepare the documents within the same business day when someone signs up. So if someone signs up and pays today, we would prepare the documents today. We would send an email to the client with a link to the secure portal to download the documents. So those are specifically drafted for their self-employed business. They can upload the signature pages. There'll be a link in that same email where they can upload the signature pages. And then there'll be a third link where they can tell us where they want to have the accounts, right? It could be at a bank, could be at a brokerage, etc. So once we receive those signed and completed documents, as well as the direction, the response on where they want to have the account set up, then we'll proceed to the next step, which will be obtaining the EIN number for the solo 401k, and then guiding them through the process to open up accounts, right? It could be, for example, pre-filling the documents to open up the accounts at Schwab, if that's what the customer wants. Looks like we talked about the 60-day rollover. So we provide email support. We're on the phone every day. You can book a phone call. We have these daily office hours as well, hosted by the owners. I'm one of the two owners of the company. So there's numerous ways to find support. Sign up here. Oh, that's because of, so if you're trying to sign up for the community, we'll send you an email after we're done to link to sign up for the community. Let me make note of that. Thank you so much for your patience. We'll also include a link to the booking, the direct booking. another one. Just making notes are for those two folks to follow up with right after we're done here. Thanks for your patience. So, all right. Okay, we made a note of that. You need help by today. No, booking a call is speaking. We'll get you to the right place on the website where you can book a call. Yes, you could deposit it into the solo. If you had a pre-existing solo 401k, you could deposit it into that account. Yes, my name is George. My last name is Blower. And again, Dean, we'll follow up with you regarding the time earlier than that. All right, looks like that takes us to the end of the questions. We'll give it a moment to see if there's any more questions. In the meantime, we invite you to subscribe. We go live on a daily basis that we get notifications. To join the community, please just email us at business@mysolo401k.net. If you're not a community member, you can put community in the subject line and then we'll get you signed up. We do have forums on there. We've got a library of videos and webinars. There's a lot of great ways to learn and share the knowledge. Does the 401k trust file taxes? Which form is it? Schedule C? Does the 401k report separate for Roth and traditional? How are the transactions such as rent expenses are recorded for each Roth and traditional accounts? No, the trust doesn't file a tax return. It only files an informational return, which is called a 5500 EZ, once the value of the plan exceeds $250,000. And we prepare that 5500 EZ as an optional free service. Customers just have to let us know once the value exceeds, right? So just let us know, for example, by the end of this year, if the value exceeds for 2025, and then we'll add you to the queue to prepare it for 2025. It would be due by July 31st of next year. And again, that's just an informational return. So it provides a high-level overview of the plan. So the value of the plan at the beginning of the year, the value of the plan at the end of the year, the amount of contributions, the amount of rollovers, whether there's loans. So we have a lot of the information that's needed to prepare that in our system. But when there's other information, because we don't have access to the accounts, we just capture that information in the first part of the year, and then we prepare it and so that it can be filed into the electronic filing system by July. There are additional fees if we were to do a restatement going from another solo 401k to my solo 401k. So it's the same fees. It's the $650, which is the initial fee. That includes the $525 establishment fee, plus the first $125 annual fee. Then starting 12 months later, we charge our $125 annual fee that covers the second year. Yes, it's possible to transfer a pension plan, assuming that it's a former employer plan. So if you reach out to the former employer plan provider, ask them for their transfer paperwork, because they won't give it to us, for example, but ask them for their transfer paperwork to transfer to another retirement plan, then forward that paperwork to us, and we'll pre-fill it as part of our services. All right. Well, thank you so much for the great participation. We do appreciate it. Until next time, everyone, take care.